Opinion: Bitcoin might, in fact, be the great equalizer. A new global survey drills in on the perception of Bitcoin around the world, and the findings appear to be generally optimistic for global equity. A few months back, some of my work proximity associates thought it would be interesting to run a wide-reaching, sweeping Bitcoin survey to learn more about the demographics, users' behaviors, and general perceptions of this hotly debated digital thingamabob. Of course, we had to do other things. We had other things to do, and so it got away from us. Like all good ideas, we weren't the only ones who had it. Over Memorial Day weekend, Block, the parent company of two prominent Bitcoin businesses, Cash App and Spiral, published a report titled Bitcoin Knowledge and Perceptions with Wakefield Research. The report surveyed 9,500 people in 14 countries. As a Bitcoiner, I already had some of the findings anecdotally established in my head, but now I have pertinent survey data to back up my idealistic thoughts about how Bitcoin's going to fix the world or whatever. In all, the report was worth diving into, so let's do that. Yeah. I recognize the cheapness in co-opting 12 pages of content produced by an eighth hippie Bitcoiner-led publicly traded company whose entire strategic direction depends on the success of Bitcoin for this newsletter. But whatever, the report is worth paying attention to. One, it's a quality piece of professional content to back up some of the anecdotal good stuff. It made Bitcoin look pretty good. Number two, here are the three key findings. Bitcoin provides promise for more equitable economy. Bitcoin education is key for adoption. And three, Bitcoin is far better known than other cryptocurrencies. Keep in mind, we don't have access to the survey itself, and so there might be implicit bias in the framing of the survey questions. That would explain the third-party market research consultancy that was attached to the report. While that doesn't absolve Block from potential bias, it makes me less skeptical. There are three main focuses related to Bitcoin and equity mentioned in the report: income, geography, and gender. The findings related to income levels, while interesting, aren't as pronounced as the other two. What's more, the geography bit is tied to the income and wealth bit. In short, the report suggests higher income people buy for investment reasons, make money, diversify, etc., and lower income people buy Bitcoin for utility reasons, easy way to send money and purchase goods. The geography bit that's tied to the income and wealth bit manifests itself when you consider the percentage of respondents who would buy Bitcoin to buy things plotted against the per capita gross domestic product of the country they live in. There's a clear visual relationship of down and to the right, suggesting that the individuals from poorer countries see more value in Bitcoin as a means for transacting, and that's extremely interesting. Here's the chart. On the left, who would buy Bitcoin to purchase goods and services, and then the per capita GDP. So you can see the further over to the left, the higher it gets, with China being extremely high, but there's a lot of people there, right? So Bitcoin as digital cash is the original use case, but as discussed in previous newsletters, that's just narrative. In fact, the survey shows there is also a logarithmic looking relationship between the percentage of respondents who would use Bitcoin to protect against inflation versus the rate of inflation in their own country. Small note here, a willingness to use Bitcoin to protect against inflation doesn't guarantee it will. And that's something that we've been talking about for a while, right? Moving past the money part of Bitcoin, findings on perceived exclusivity is presented as one of the negative results of the survey. The report presents a map that shows the percentage of respondents who agreed with the notion that the Bitcoin community is not inclusive of people like them. A lot of countries are split. South Africans pull very pro-Bitcoin, but Indians feel quite the opposite. There are two possibilities here. One, India's historically tough stance on crypto has soured sentiment on Bitcoin. Or two, the Bitcoin community's toxic maximalism culture that shows itself on social media platforms has soured Indian sentiment on Bitcoin. I would go with the former over the latter, but that's just me. A single bad experience on social media is all it takes. Lastly, in this section, the report makes an interesting claim. The gender divide in Bitcoin ownership and self-described knowledge is more pronounced in the Americas, but less male-dominated when looking at the rest of the world. That quote's accompanying graphic can be overwhelming, but the main takeaway is this. Women in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and Asia Pacific claim expert knowledge at higher rates than men. Sure, this is great, but I would like to see more on this topic before using the phrase "there is no gender divide" as stated in the report. Block's quote was, "There is no gender divide between the people who own Bitcoin and see themselves as experts." In this section, Block put its best education is key when it comes to growing Bitcoin's network effect by getting more people to buy and use Bitcoin. The more respondents knew about Bitcoin, the more likely they were to purchase Bitcoin in the next year. Anecdotally, a lack of education on the topic is what most developers point to when I ask them about the biggest blockers for adoption. On the last page of the report, Block made an innocuous claim. Bitcoin is the best known cryptocurrency. We know that. But the gap between Bitcoin and second place Ethereum was much larger than I would have thought. While 88% of respondents had heard of Bitcoin, only 43% had heard of Ethereum. My gut tells me Block included this to make investors feel that the company was right to focus only on Bitcoin. But I feel it is also included to highlight the longevity, or that longevity has perks. One of the reasons Bitcoin is better known is because it succeeded for a longer period of time. In all, the report is high level and should be shared widely. It provides a great overview of the pertinent social questions being asked about Bitcoin while giving some concrete figures in response to those questions. But we need to go deeper. I look forward to reading and maybe writing some of the surveys and reports like this one inspires. I find a lot of this information extremely interesting. I think the biggest one, of course, is the gender divide, specifically in America, because I do notice that in the Americas, obviously we run a cryptocurrency channel. Do we not? Now, the cryptocurrency channel that I run is probably also would have to, as far as demographics go, be very specific in the fact that it does include IT, technology, computers, types of things that lean towards, I guess, the male gender over the female gender. But if I looked at my demographics and I said my demographics are indicative of the US population's interest in cryptocurrency, then we would have to say that 97% of the interest, 80% of my viewers, for example, are US based. 97% of them are male and 3% of them are female. So I think as far as there being a gender divide within cryptocurrency, at least in the US, where I can see via my own personal stats what's going on, I would say there is a gender divide. And I think educating, obviously educating females on Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, etc. within the US would be advantageous to a certain extent. That being said, there does seem to be a natural inclination of men in the US towards cryptocurrency, while not as much from women. I don't know exactly why, other than we could go all the way back into the interest of science, technology, and math, that sort of thing. And it probably relates to a certain extent. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Crypto Mining Morning Show every Monday through Friday, 7:45 a.m. Pacific and 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. You can check out more clips here, or if you're interested in checking out the entire live show, you can check that out down here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Tuesday.